Check it out. It's the Laugh to Learn podcast. What is going on, everyone? My name is Jacob Paveo. This is the Laugh to Learn podcast, and I am coming to you from the Great White North, as always, every single Wednesday afternoon, 1 p.m. Standard Time. I hope you're having a great day. It is actually the Great White North after a long, long summer. I actually prefer winter, so it felt very long. We actually have snow on the ground. Several inches of snow fell 2 days ago. It's all supposed to melt, like today and tomorrow, and then it's supposed to start falling again. So hopefully, wherever you are, it is a lovely day outside. It's blue skies here, so even though it's a little bit cold, it's actually right at freezing right now, but blue skies and beautiful weather. I hope the same is true for you. If it's your first time checking the show out, thank you very much for coming by. If you're returning, welcome back. No matter who you are or how many times you've listened, please hit that subscribe button wherever you're coming from all around the world. Help us return to our spot. We've been dethroned from the iTunes charts. Spot number 138 is no longer ours here in Canada, and I think we were like 240 in Sweden. So, trying to get our way back there. Don't forget, you can find all my social links over at the side. Check out the website, www.laughtolearnpodcast.com. You can use the contact page there or the store for some fantastic Christmas gifts. Now, we have an important episode that I feel like no one's going to listen to, but these are the sort of things that I love talking about, so I'm going to do it anyways, because guess what? Even if 1 million people listen to this podcast, I don't make money doing it, so I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about, and that is that finally, this week, I shouldn't say finally, we all knew when it was going to be, but since, if you recall, the election back in September, we now officially yesterday heard the speech from the Governor General and the Prime Minister's throne speech, essentially, and yeah, the 44th Canadian Parliament officially launched, and of course, the way that it opens is that the Prime Minister first sits down, and then they do a whole ceremonial thing. It's very odd. It's so old. We spend way too much money on it. Down with the history, okay? I mean, if you were watching yesterday and you didn't know what was going on, you would have thought you were watching, I don't even know what you would have thought. It's just weird. You know, some guy walks in with a big gold stick and yells something, and he leaves. Then another guy comes in with a black stick and yells something and touches his hat looking at people, and then he leaves. And then more people come and go, and all the politicians that are sitting there are literally not paying attention, because this thing it's like literally hours long of this historical ceremony that I just think we need to revamp. There's no need for a golden cane and a black cane and a whatever the hell is going on. Useless. But what matters is the Governor General, who, of course, represents the Queen here in Canada. Her power is rather limited nowadays, but we stick with it. So we have the Governor General, who does the opening throne speech, and then, of course, the platform speech comes from the Prime Minister, and those are the two things that really mattered yesterday. And now what's going to happen is there's going to be a vote of confidence in the Prime Minister's opening remarks. and we'll get to that in a second. But it started with the Governor General's speech, and now she is the first indigenous person to hold the position of Governor General, and she talked a lot about reconciliation. She directly mentioned the residential schools and the graves that were found recently, and basically encouraging the parties to work together, because she is completely nonpartisan. She doesn't ascribe to either party. She just represents the Queen and the government as a whole, really. And she was just encouraging the parties to work together for the community she comes from, which was actually really cool to see. Really cool to listen to, because when people talk about wanting diversity in politics, this is what I imagine, right? When you have people getting elected or being promoted to positions of cabinet just because it's like, well, you're literally the only Asian woman we have, and there's no direct example to that. That's why I chose that. So I'm not pointing at a specific person, but you're literally the only Asian woman, and we need an Asian woman. So you're gonna be the Minister of Defense. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the crazy shit that's been happening in politics around the world. Trudeau was so bad for it. I think 33 of 114 MPs were female, and of those 33, I think 14 or 15 of them were nominated to cabinet. That way, half of his cabinet was female. I'm sorry, but it was a bad move, as we ended up seeing, because, of course, how many of them ended up getting either removed from position or having to step down because they were not ready for it. They weren't the right person for that job. Well, this Governor General appointment is so apt, and it shows how diversity in politics can be used properly, because she simply approached, and it's all in the approach of the individual, right? Because she could have come down there and thrown down the gauntlet and done the whole, woke thing of, I've been oppressed for generations and blah, 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 the thing we've all heard over and over again, and it's quite frankly not convincing anyone new to join your cause. That's the problem with woke politics. And ultimately what she did was she just said, here are all the things everyone in this room knows. No new facts, no victim statement. Just straight up, we discussed this last year. This was found earlier this year. These are the places that don't have water. And she looked at them all and said, I encourage you and I implore you to work towards fixing that. End of statement. That's what she did. And afterwards, she was interviewed, and she said specifically that she hopes that her life experiences, she can bring them forward to help solving these problems as essentially another voice in politics. So even though she has she has the most power in the House because she can absolve Parliament, and literally, but realistically, she has basically no actual power in the House. She has like a formal position of power, but she has no vote, nothing like that. But she's driving the conversation forward, and she led the conversation in that direction quite well. So yeah, I would encourage people to go listen to it if you're interested. It's not must-see television, but it was a really interesting thing to see. It was really cool, and it is really cool to see that, because she's appointed directly by the Queen, and of course there are people here in Canada who mention potential nominees, but the Queen ultimately decides, or, her people decide. But it's really interesting that in England, they recognize the importance of having someone like this. And she's done fantastic things. Her resume is huge. She's not like a random individual who they plucked from the north. And, it wasn't like, oh, here's a woman from random, tribal community X, and okay, we need one of them, get her to Ottawa. It wasn't like that. She has an incredible resume. She's done great things, and she knows how to deliver in the required speeches when you're representing the crown, and she did fantastic at it. And it's unfortunate, I think, that in a way that her position will shelter her from the public, because no one really pays attention to the Governor General just because they have no power. But it's still really good to see, and I think her speech was quite well done. Now, the really interesting thing that happened yesterday was Trudeau's speech, because of course, if you've been listening to the show, you know that Trudeau has another minority government. So he is back-to-back minorities after his first majority. And here's the thing. All the statistics show that he would have had a majority had he not called an election during a pandemic. So that brings up something really interesting, which we've mentioned on the show a little bit in the past, but I think it's worth going into right now, because his speech proved what a lot of people have been assuming, and that is that no matter what he said yesterday, no opposition party was going to trigger an election. Because they have that right? He needs one opposition party to vote for him in this vote of confidence. He needs that. Otherwise, he will lose confidence in the House, and there will automatically be triggered another election. The problem is not for Trudeau, but for the opposition parties. Because if they trigger an election right now, they are then going to be the ones who look bad. And all of the other parties are going to point it out and be like, whoever it is, Aaron O'Toole, who's probably the one that it would be, triggered an election. Look what Aaron O'Toole did. Way to go, Aaron. Right? And then Trudeau actually has a shot at a majority. So he knows no matter what, they are not going to trigger an election. I believe they vote later. It might even be today that the actual vote is on confidence in the House. So Trudeau basically just reiterated his party platform, and unlike last time, where after he won the last minority, we talked about how he really kowtowed to the NDP, and his platform was really merged with that progressive NDP platform to get their votes of confidence. This, especially if you recall, with taxing the rich, which was something that Trudeau had never discussed before, that suddenly he was talking about, and a plan for he talked about further subsidizing post-secondary education. Two things he talked about in his last speech when the 43rd Parliament opened, that in the 44th Parliament he did not get into. All he really focused on was getting through the pandemic, reestablishing the Canadian economy in a green manner. That was the big push for his speech, was a green, strong Canadian economy coming through the pandemic. He did not give any points to any other party, knowing full well that those parties are going to support him, because if they don't, they're going to get destroyed in the election that they would have triggered. So really, really interesting that, Parliament is open now. And that leads us to the big topic of today. Because as of right now, you cannot get in to the House of Commons if you are not vaccinated. And I talked about this beforehand, where if I was a Conservative voter, or if I planned on voting Conservative, I would not have if my candidate did not come out and say whether or not they were vaccinated. Because of where we are now. I said this would happen, and that is exactly where we are. After a I always want to say bipartisan, but that's an American term because there's two parties. It's quadripartisan with the 4 Canadian parties, I guess. But a nonpartisan group who oversees protocol within the House of Commons agreed that you need to be vaccinated to sit in the House of Commons for safety. Now, of course, Aaron the Tool O'Toole, cannot get his party members to get vaccinated while also telling the public to get vaccinated, and so they are not required to be. And he has not said how many nor who, but we do know that some of the 118 Conservative MPs are not vaccinated and therefore are not allowed to sit in Ottawa. They're not allowed to unless they get vaccinated, and they don't plan on getting vaccinated at this point, clearly. So, as I said, the nonpartisan group, which includes Conservative MPs, Liberal MPs, NDP, probably the one dude from the Green Party, you know what I mean? Everyone's involved. Everyone gets a say in some manner. And they unanimously agreed that you have to be vaccinated to sit in the House of Commons. Well, now suddenly Aaron O'Toole and the Conservatives are upset about that, and they want a vote in the House on whether or not you need to be vaccinated to sit in the House of Commons. Now, I'm mind blown that this is the play Aaron O'Toole is planning on making. I'm actually mind blown because what is he hoping is about to happen? How does this end up looking good for your party? Because we know the majority of Conservative MPs are vaccinated. We're probably talking about a group of less than 10 of these 118 members, right? But when you're a minority party and you're the leader of the opposition, it's really important to have every vote count in the House, right? So he wants those people to sit in the House because you can't vote if you're not there. You cannot vote if you're not there, which means, as of right now, if you are not vaccinated, the entire group, the entire population of your riding that you are representing in Ottawa does not have a say. They do not have a vote. And I said this from the beginning. If I found out my MP was not vaccinated, I would demand their immediate resignation. And that is why they don't want people to know who's not vaccinated. Because the people should and would demand you get vaxxed or you get out. How in the hell are you supposed to sit in Ottawa if you can't legally sit in Ottawa? How are you supposed to represent us? So by O'Toole saying he wants a vote in the House, I don't know what he's hoping to gain, because all of the other members of all other parties have come forward and said they are fully vaccinated. Every Liberal, every NDP, every Bloc, and the whatever it is, the 2 people from the Green Party are all fully vaccinated. Every single one of them. So if you put a vote to the House, his 118 members, if he gets all of them to vote against this, they still lose. They have no chance of winning this. And no one is going to give more power to the Conservatives by allowing them to, bring these 10 more people, whatever the number ends up being, into the House. And this is what I said after the election. Imagine if it's a big number. Imagine if it's like 20 or 30 members of the Conservative caucus that aren't vaccinated. Oh my God. And you have to sit a certain number of days in the House or you lose your position. They have to sit in Ottawa a certain number of days. So this is what I said right up front. You are literally, it's like winning the U.S. presidency under the age of 45. It's like a 30-year-old winning the presidency, and then legally they can't be sworn in. That's why it's not technically illegal for them to run, but no one would ever support that candidate. And that's how I felt about this. How could you support someone who's not vaccinated that can't get into a government building? It's asinine that we're in this position. It's absolutely asinine. And this has been 3 months of Aaron O'Toole, who is constantly, people are actually calling for him to step down because he can't get Conservative MPs vaccinated. And he has said that Conservatives will follow the rules in the meantime. You know, and leading members of the party, not O'Toole himself, but other leading members of the party, have emphasized that the party itself believes in getting vaccinated against COVID-19. So you're in this weird position where we're now trying to, and multiple MPs have completely abstained from commenting on this. Conservative MPs have completely abstained from commenting, and they don't want this brought to the floor because they don't want to look like dipshits who are supporting anti-vaccine coworkers. Because that's the other problem here is, imagine now if this does come to a vote and, you know, you have leading, tenured, senior members of the Conservative Party who have been on camera imploring people to get vaccinated. They've been in because some conservative individuals have been in the advertisements paid for by your provincial healthcare providers and whatnot, because they're, and the federal government as well. They've been in ads encouraging you to get vaccinated. Andrew Scheer was in one not too long ago. The former leader of the Conservative Party was in an ad paid for by the Liberal government telling people to get vaccinated because that's what it's about. And now all of a sudden, you're going to what? You're going to ask these senior members of parliament who have been on TV showing themselves getting the needles, encouraging their constituents to get the needles. Now you're going to want that person to vote against needing the needles to get into the parliament building? No way. It's not going to happen. This is why I like Canadian politics above American politics, is because I don't think it's going to happen. You're not going to have 118 members of this party agree, because there are some areas, like the one that I live in, that are almost a 50-50 split, where in this case here, the Conservatives always edge the win out, but only slightly. They've never not never, but it's been years since there's been a dominant win in this district. Years and years and years, going in both directions. And, you know, so here it's Doug Shipley is our member of parliament. If he's to come out and vote against this and say, no, you don't need to be vaccinated. Meanwhile, he was at a town hall telling people that he encourages vaccines. I mean, how is he supposed to have those two things be true? He just, at that point, looks like he's a complete bullshitter. And let me tell you, that come the next election, that's the first thing anyone's going to show about these individuals, if they're both in advertisements saying, get vaccinated, and then they stand on the floor and they say, except my friend doesn't have to. Rules for thee, but not for me, as the old saying goes. And that is how you lose in politics. So I really don't know what O'Toole is doing here. I think he probably has a feeling that the vote won't end up coming to the House, but he wants to look like he's supporting his party members to keep his job, which makes me think that maybe it is a big number of Conservative MPs that aren't vaccinated. It just, that's kind of mind-blowing to me. I don't comprehend how the number would be that big. But again, he hasn't told us that he hasn't told us a number of people that aren't vaccinated. And Yeah, it's really concerning moving forward. And I don't know where this goes. Because if it ends up being confirmed that moving forward, if you are not vaccinated, you can't sit in Ottawa, I have a feeling you're going to see MPs just go and sit because they have to by law to keep their job. And I have a feeling unvaxxed people are just going to go and sit. And it's already been brought up. It's already been brought up. So after an analysis by the Canadian Press found that at least 2 of the Conservative MPs said they can't get vaccinated for medical reasons. 83 have said they had their shots, right? So that leaves 28 roughly more members of parliament that haven't publicly disclosed their status, with some saying they believe the information is private. So, when 20 people aren't coming out and saying that they did something, they just got a shot, that literally 85% of the I'm looking at the number right now, 89.93% of the population have had one dose, 86.29%, sorry, this is the population above 12 years old, 86.29% of the population above 12 years old have been fully vaccinated. So roughly 90% of the population has done it. And 20 federal members of parliament are saying, oh, that's private information. We don't want to get on... What, you don't want to get on the fucking bandwagon? You're a politician. That's what they do. That's what they do. They get on bandwagons and garner votes and support and popularity. And you know what's popular right now? Vaccines. And you know what you would be saying if you were vaccinated to get more popular? You'd be telling people you were vaccinated. Further to this, O'Toole didn't answer Tuesday when asked again how many of his members have medical exemptions. We know that there are 2. But said Conservatives worked with officials on Parliament Hill to ensure they met public health requirements and expressed disappointment at the Liberals' suggestions that those officials didn't do their jobs properly, because it has been noted that it is statistically unlikely as to the number of members of Parliament that are claiming medical health exemptions. They are few and far between, right? Think about it. If 90% of people above 12 years old are fully vaccinated, and many medical exemptions are from health issues that are more popular with age, right? When you're talking about working members of Parliament, it's not even likely that 2 of 118 have a medical exemption. It's not likely that 1 does. It's probably below half a percentage point. That statistics that someone, between the ages of 27, let's say, and 60 years old have an actual medical exemption. Because a lot of it, too, is like life-threatening illness. So, I don't know where this goes. I don't know what the Conservative Party's hoping for here. This is one of those things where politics is all about spin. It's all about finding a way to take a scenario, even a bad one, like O'Toole is clearly in right now. He does not want to be here. I guarantee you he is vaccinated. He does not want to be here trying to find a way to defend these people who are not getting vaccinated. The problem is that he hasn't found a way to spin it yet. Clearly, he hasn't found a way to spin it yet. And so he's dragging it forward and trying to get something out of nothing. Trying to prove that, or not trying to prove necessarily, but trying to delay long enough to find a way to get these individuals into the House. And this is, to me, just a delay tactic, because there's no way he wants this vote to go forward. If they vote on it in the House, like I said at the beginning, it's just going to get stomped. It's going to get stomped, and they're going to look like fools. And it's going to look really, really bad on the Conservative Party. That's not the way you want to open a parliamentary sitting, by calling for a vote that you get stomped on. And to be honest, there's a chance that the opposition parties agree to take this vote, because then every Conservative MP who votes to allow non-vaccinated people into the House you'll have a perfect reason to attack them in the next election. And one of them are going to be running for prime minister, right? So, because it's not going to be Aaron O'Toole again, and it's not going to be Andrew Scheer. So you're just it's like setting up the party for failure. And it's crazy that they're in this position. And I really don't get it. I don't know where they go with this. I don't know what the idea is behind it. And I worry for the Conservative Party here. This is one of those things that can ruin your reputation for a generation. 90% of Canadians over the age of 12 are vaccinated. You are not winning votes by voting against vaccinations in Canada. It's not happening. I don't know if they're watching American television and American statistics and American polls and running their political life in that manner. I don't know. Because the majority that I talk about on this show is American politics. But I know the difference. And I look at the Canadian statistics and I'm like, yeah, no way. No way does that work here. You don't get QAnon here. You don't get conspiracy groups dominating discussion and actually swinging electoral results in Canada. It doesn't happen. It hasn't in years. The last big sort of coup to dominate politics was the FLQ whatever the fuck. Ooh, I just slammed my mouse. I don't even remember now off the top of my head. I want to say the 80s. This is actually really bad because the 80s. 63 to 71. I almost said the 60s, and then I was like, no, but it is. So, the FLQ is the last real group that rose to power and dominated politics, and they were a terror organization. And yes, that's straight up the comparison that I'm using for what the power that the Conservative government seems to think, or Conservative Party rather, they didn't form a government, that the Conservative Party seems to think that the anti-vax population has in the country right now. And it's flat out not real. It's simply not real. Even the most conservative people, the people I know who are anti-vaxxers, are not conservative voters. None of them. Literally none of them, who are living in Canada still. The super conservatives I know are all vaccinated. They are, all of them. Every single one. Most of them before I even got vaccinated. So it's a really odd situation to be faced with. And I really hope that O'Toole doesn't misalign this. Because misalign as in misalign his beliefs with reality and call this vote forward. Because as I've talked about, I'm not too pleased with the Liberal platform right now. I'm definitely not pleased with the NDP platform. And I'm kind of left between a rock and a hard place where I really hoped that the Conservative Party would be able to bring the Liberal Party back towards the center where they were, 2 campaigns ago in Trudeau's first election. Just slide back to the middle a little bit. Enough with the extremist position on some ideas and spin them just back to where I think they would need to be to win another majority. And when the Conservative Party's acting like this, not going to happen. And if this is what it's going to be for this entire government, I'm telling you that the Conservative Party does not have a chance, and the Liberals are going to win a majority. They're going to right now. If an election was triggered, the Conservative Party looks so bad right now. If they call this vote, it's mind blowing. Anyways, I'm talking in circles now because I've read all my news stories, and this is one of those weeks where I try to come to a conclusion at the end of every week and tie everything together. But I really don't know what they're doing. I don't know if Aaron O'Toole is on the way out and he doesn't really care anymore, and he's just trying to save his position as a member of Parliament. So he wants to keep, other members sort of satisfied, keep everyone, in the same sort of frame of mind or something. I don't know. But I worry for the party, and I really hope that things get turned around. Anyways, thank you. If you've listened to the end, thanks for checking it out. As always, you can reach me using the contact page over on the website. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. All my social media links are down below. Watch on Instagram. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. If you're not following me, there's a mosquito in my house in the middle of winter. That's weird. If you're not following me on Instagram already, go follow Laugh to Learn podcast on Instagram. We are posting short clips there. I've posted one. I'm making a bunch so I can have constant content there. But they did really well. That seems to be where people want to listen to me, and that's cool. I'll go where the people are. Build it, and I will come. Okay, so go follow the Instagram page over there. Tell your friends about the podcast. Word of mouth is the best way to spread it. Of course, if you're looking to spread some Christmas cheer, laughtolearnpodcast.com/store, and you can get our awesome long sleeve shirts. That's going to be the product I recommend to you this week. They're super comfortable, of course. All cotton, 100% cotton. I think it's 100%. I just made that up. But I know it's cotton that is produced and woven in Honduras. Beautiful black shirts. I think you can also get the red navy shirt still, but I might have had to pull it because they might not offer it anymore. I don't recall. But either way, the black and the navy shirt were navy is the wrong word. Maroon is the word I'm looking for. Navy is a blue. The black and the maroon, awesome comfort, fantastic quality. They are pressed in Mississauga if you order from Canada. If you order from the U.S., they are pressed in Delaware last time I ordered them, but there's a few factories along the East Coast that they use. But yeah, fantastic quality stuff. I just got my sticker for my snowboarding helmet, so it says Laugh to Learn Podcast on my helmet. So if you are snowboarding and you see that on the front of a helmet, be like, hey, it's you. I'll be like, what's up? Yeah, otherwise, thank you for checking it out, and I will see you next Wednesday. And I encourage you to keep washing your hands, keep social distancing, keep wearing those masks, keep getting your politicians vaccinated, because apparently that's a thing now. Keep on laughing, and keep on learning.